Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All coming to you from Belize once again. And actually, interestingly enough, let's see if I can do it this way. Right there is a picture in the back of our hotel room, which is the Blue Hole, and we had the privilege of diving that yesterday. It was definitely top 2 or 3 dives I've ever done, and I know Misinformation agrees with me about that one. She thinks it was fantastic too. So on our Whole Nuts and Donuts channel, which is linked in the description, we will do like a whole Belize sort of thing afterwards. So definitely subscribe to that channel if you're interested when we get back. Anyway, of course, because I was completely out of touch, because obviously it's 40 miles offshore, there's not any cell phone coverage or anything. So while I was gone yesterday, a ton of stuff happened. So one of the interesting things, we'll just start with Ashok Elluswamy's post. And I believe a lot of this is related to the fact that CVPR is going on right now. I can't remember if it's done yet or if it's still going on. But anyway, Tesla always has a very big presence at that conference. And hopefully in a few weeks, we'll actually get some of the presentations from the conference. So I will be able to break those down. Those will be really, really interesting. But anyway, it looks like they're in sort of strong recruiting mode at the moment. And they are posting a lot. Tesla AI is posting a ton of really interesting information and calling for the smart people in the world to go work for them. So if you're a smart person in the world working in AI, you should definitely check it out. Anyway, this is a really interesting start to this sort of hot take here. And I'll do something more extensive, maybe with Scott Walter or James Dalma or something when I get back home. But anyway, let's start with Ashok's tweet here. And of course, this is related to the fact that Elon Musk has been traveling in India recently, met with Narendra Modi there, and has made a very strong statement, a very strong commitment that they're going to do something in India. It's possible that it might be batteries. It's possible it might be an automobile manufacturing plant. Who knows? But he's definitely committed to doing something in India as soon as possible, basically. But anyway, in response to this, he said, "It's been my secret ambition to make Tesla full self-driving so good that it works as well as a local driver, even in India, which will then prove unequivocally that we have achieved AGI." So, obviously Ashok is in charge of Tesla's full self-driving team, their AI ambitions and everything in that realm, which includes Optimus. So I hesitate. I call it full self-driving, and then I always have to backtrack. It's full autonomy for robots, something along those lines. But anyway, if you don't know, India is noted for its insane traffic patterns where everybody's just sort of like driving around in like crazy patterns and things like that. So everyone always says like it would be a PhD in full self-driving for a car to be able to drive in a large city in India. So we will see what happens with that. That would be amazing if that does in fact happen one day. It seems like Tesla is on the right path to actually make that happen, which is really impressive. I'm calling that AGI, with a wink, right? That it's artificial general intelligence. And again, I really do want to do a video on this, but I also want to take some time to like think my way through it and do a careful one. So it will probably come next week when I'm back home again. But I think that we are really looking at some very interesting possibilities coming out of the fact that Tesla is having to do so much inference about human beings in order to drive on the road. So anyway, we'll start with that, and then we can move on to this tweet, because Elon Musk a few hours back said, this is in response to, is Dojo going to be a competitor to NVIDIA? And he said, not exactly a competitor to NVIDIA, as we aren't selling Dojo computers, although it could be sold as a service. Hint. We just need a crazy amount of training compute to get full self-driving 10 times safer than humans, but can't get enough GPUs, plus prices are extremely high. So this is back to that sort of vertical integration by necessity thing that Tesla keeps doing over and over again. They really don't want to be in the lithium refining business, but nobody else is doing it well enough, so they do it. They didn't really want to be in the battery construction industry, but nobody else was doing it, so they do it. So they vertically integrate out of necessity, and they're clearly doing that with Dojo as well. But as Scott Walter, my good buddy, hi, said, remember our speculations about Dojo as a service. It is no longer speculation, right? So that's exactly right. That Tesla, I believe actually Elon has even said previously that there was a strong possibility that that they would sell Dojo as a service eventually. Now, the timeline for this is going to be extremely long because of the fact that they have to really ramp up the work that they're doing. And that relates to the next couple of tweets here. So, so let's just start with this. Tesla's aiming for 100 exaflops of training compute by the end of 2024. The biggest currently right now is 1.2 exaflops. And there's a graph that shows an incredible ramp here. And then Elon responded to that and said much more than that in cumulative inference compute in vehicle. So people are thinking about the NVIDIA clusters that Tesla has, and they're thinking about the Dojo exapod, whatever they want to call it, those services that they're going to have as well for compute. That is mostly for training compute. That doesn't include what's going on in our vehicles, and they're in the United States and Canada. I think it's slightly less than 1 million, but it's very close to 1 million vehicles are currently on the roads in the United States and Canada, where full self-driving beta is. And of course, it's also collecting data in the rest of the world as well, minus perhaps China because of the weird situation there because of the data privacy issues. But anyway, that means that all of those cars have a very sophisticated computing device in hardware 3 and now hardware 4, and they actually, it's underestimated how much that actually matters, because what these cars do is when Tesla puts out a query and says, I need to see stop signs that are half blocked on the top right with a brown Toyota in front of it for whatever reason, I'm just saying, weird random edge cases, that it can spit out that information, and the cars are all looking out for that. So as they're driving, they're constantly polling what's going on. And if they see something like that, they can then process that information and package it and send it back to the Tesla mothership the next time that the vehicle is in like Wi-Fi range or something. So this is all work that does not have to be done on Tesla's part, because the cars are doing it. It doesn't have to be done in the mothership and the centralized computing area. That saves a huge amount of data transfer, right? Because otherwise you have to just bulk, upload all of this data and download it to Tesla. And then there's a ton of processing. So a lot of the processing that's happening in the vehicles is actually reducing the amount of processing that has to happen back at Tesla's mothership, which is very, very, it's underestimated and underappreciated. So it's actually a really, really huge thing that's going on there. Okay, then we get to a whole series of Tesla AI tweets. You can see, and Elon retweeted several of these, and we're going to get to this bottom one in just a minute because that's actually super, super cool. But this is related to CVPR, and it's related to obviously recruiting, because they talk about come work for us, right? That kind of a thing. So you can see here that we've got, they start off with Tesla is building foundation models for autonomous robots. And what they mean by that is Optimus on the left here. So you can see Optimus looking around. This is an occupancy network down here that you can clearly see. In other words, it's voxels of space where it's identifying that as a human being, a green thing, there's a human being. It doesn't really know what these objects are, but it knows that it can't hit them. It has to avoid those things. So that's the kind of situation that is really, really extremely valuable for what's going on with Tesla, for everything. And you can see another version of this with full self-driving where it's able to identify, I think it doesn't know what that is, that orange thing, but it's able to avoid it because it's like, okay, I don't know what that thing is, but I'm not going to hit it when I go, right? So it's like, get around that object. So it's able to steer around things even if it doesn't know. And again, this is the kind of thing, I'm going to pause this for a second. This is the kind of thing that it's geometry over ontology. You don't have to know what it is, you just have to avoid it. And this happens with human beings too. If you're driving and maybe it's at night or something and you just see kind of a blob in the road, it could be a garbage bag, it could be a tire, it could be something. You don't necessarily need to know what it is, you just need to know oh, don't hit that thing. So it's very, very important that the autonomous robot, whether that robot is a vehicle or a humanoid robot, either of those has to avoid hitting things in the world. And you can see that it's critically important. And the full self-driving, interestingly enough, has a lot more semantics involved, because it's got the blue for moving objects like cars, it's got the red for parked objects, it's got the white for the sort of background area, and then it's got that orange for the whatever it is that it can't tell what it is. With the robot, it's pretty much broken it up into stuff in the world and human beings there. And I think that there are other things that it also sees as well. But you can see the difference in the ontology versus geometry in both of those situations. But in either case, the occupancy network is absolutely huge. And as Ashok said last fall at AI Day 2, he was like, this was kind of a a nights and weekends project that he did originally. So this has turned out to be absolutely crucial to what's going on with Tesla, but it's also just like super interesting that he kind of just worked on it on his own. And that's the kind of thing, if you want to work for Tesla, if you're smart enough, you can work on this stuff and make a difference and actually release a product into the world that you kind of worked on yourself. So that's insane. That's very, very cool. Okay, so next tweet is, let's see, let's start this guy back up again here. Our multimodal neural networks are already in customer vehicles, in other words, Teslas. These networks take in arbitrary modalities such as camera videos, maps, navigation, IMU or inertial measurement unit, GPS, etc. So in other words, as ChatGPT, the original version of it was not multimodal. It was only text input. Now, supposedly, we haven't seen it yet, but supposedly the new version of ChatGPT, GPT-4, does do multimodality. In other words, it can take in videos, it can take in images, it can take in other stuff like that, and it can then respond to that in text. But here you've got, from the get-go, Tesla's vehicles are working with cameras, videos, not still frames, but videos. And this is a very important thing, right? That's what the primary interaction with the world is, and that's the same as human beings. That's what we'd have. And then the IMU, which is the inertial measurement unit, is effectively the same thing as a human being's inner ear, right? As you turn, you're what, I was on a boat all day yesterday. I'm sure my wife would agree with this, and happy birthday to her, by the way. Everybody sent her birthday wishes. But as the boat rocks, the inner ear fluids in your ears rock back and forth, and they tell you where you are. So the IMU is a silicon version of that. And then, of course, maps, navigation data, stuff like that, the more gross stuff that, the routing situation that you've got. But it takes all that information in, and it's able to, operate in the world, in the real world. It's just incredible that it's able to do that. And then we've got the next tweet is, tasks such as occupancy prediction are already quite general in what they represent. In some ways, they are ontology-free and simply predict the probability that some 3D position is occupied. Such occupancy can be used for collision avoidance by any robot. So this is exactly what I was talking about, right? The geometry is greater than the ontology. It doesn't have to know what it is, it just has to know that there's something there. And notice that it says collision avoidance by any robot. So they're talking about clearly the car, because it's in cars and it has to avoid colliding with things. But also we've got Optimus, and who knows, maybe they can backfill this into like Fanuc robots or something like that. They can put them into the big industrial robots that swing around and pick up pieces of cars and put them on places. That is a possibility, that they could retrofit that onto some of these other robots, these big industrial robots, and make them safer and more effective, because they'll have some vision system that they'll be able to understand the universe and what's going on around them. That's totally speculation, but it's not speculation that this is in Optimus and it's in the cars right now. So it's really, really cool information. And then, of course, we get all of this is enabled by fleet scale auto labeling by using video data from multiple trips in the same location. Excuse me. Very humid down here, so there we go. By using video data from multiple trips in the same location, we can reconstruct the entire scene. So here you can see that this is a reconstruction of the scene. This isn't the original. So it's actually like building a 3D version of reality from the cameras, which is insanely difficult. This is the kind of foundation work that Andrej Karpathy was working on years ago, and clearly everybody else in the team was working on as well. But here we've got NeRFs. This is neural radiance fields. So I would assume that. It doesn't say that, but I assume that's what we're talking about. And it's reconstructing a scene by ray casting into the scene. It's very cool. Way back when, gosh, in the early 2000s, I built a ray tracer for like a virtual world, which is really, really cool. This is sort of like, in a way, like the backwards of that. It's sort of building a virtual world out of the reality. That was imaging a two-dimensional vision of a three-dimensional scene. This is actually building out a three-dimensional version of something that you're getting from two-dimensional video. So very, very cool how all that stuff is working. And of course, fleet scale auto labeling is critical to what Tesla's doing. It's a scaling issue. It doesn't matter how much data you have and how good it is. If a human being has to painstakingly hand label all of it, it's just going to take the age of the universe before this kind of thing has enough data in it to do the training that it needs to. So auto labeling is a crucial feature of what's enabling Tesla's full self-driving to move ahead so far. And then this last one is really interesting. Sorry, the next one, next to last one. Anyway, in addition, we're building off state-of-the-art generative modeling techniques, enabling us to predict possible outcomes given past observations in a jointly consistent manner across multiple camera views. So they're creating a modeling technique which allows them to Monte Carlo the situation. In other words, they can spray out a bunch of possible potential routes that it's going to do, potential things that other cars are going to do, and they're able to integrate that across the 8 cameras that are currently in their vehicles in a consistent manner. So it's just, again, this is the kind of insane thing that's like, now that it's done, it's like, oh, that's pretty easy. But it's sort of like SpaceX. SpaceX is now landing rocket ships multiple times a week, and nobody else. It was 2015 when they landed the first one, and it's been 8 years, and nobody else has ever done it. So, it just shows how crazy this is. So now it kind of looks like it's like, oh yeah, no problem. Obviously, you can reconstruct reality from camera views. You can make them is internally consistent with each other across multiple frames and across distances and things like that. No big deal, but it is a big deal. It's absolutely huge, and nobody else can do this as far as I know. It's an insanely complicated and difficult thing to do. So here we go. This was the thing I thought we were getting to the next, but anyway, we'll go down to Elon Musk. This is pretty cool. We can generate surround car video and command the car from text prompts. We're going to get to that in just a minute. Tesla says, these imagined futures can be action conditioned to produce different outcomes. For example, the videos below are generated entirely by the neural network by simply using different prompts. So if we want to look at this, this is not real. This is actually generative art. And what they're saying here is, I'm going to try to blow this up. It may actually cover me up. That's fine. But anyway, this is like prompt to drive straight, prompt to drive lanes to the right. And sorry, the video quality isn't the greatest in the world. But this is the car driving straight. It's generating the reality from a text prompt. It's like drive straight, and it's actually making a world, and it's driving straight. And over here, it's drive and then take a right-hand switch lane. So it's just about to do this. And at the end, sorry, our internet connection here is terrible. But anyway, it was, I guess, it's not going to show it. But anyway, you should see it start to make a right-hand switch of lanes. Yeah, all right. Anyway, you can run this yourself. Of course, I will put a link to this in the description. But you can see when it does it that it's actually generating a right-hand lane, and it's actually switching over to that right-hand lane, which is just amazingly cool. So anyway, this is generative art. I mean, this is on like Mid-Journey kind of stuff, Stable Diffusion kind of things, that it's actually creating these worlds from text prompts, and you can command the car from text prompts. So in other words, what Tesla's discovered is that all of this work that they've done to auto-label things and to create this world and recreate this world has allowed them to actually generate these worlds from text prompts. So I'm assuming that they've integrated OpenAI's Clip into this, or some sort of competitor to that. They're using that sort of technology to associate text with generated images and things, and that is just super interesting that they're able to do that. And probably it's just the kind of thing that somebody decided to hack together over a period of time. They were probably like, yeah, cool, let's just see what happens if we try this. A little bit, it's like was it 2015 or 2016, somewhere around there, when the first crazy thing happened when Google did their Deep Dream, where you saw like the sky full of eyeballs and things like that, that they just, one of the engineers was like, wait, we've been training so much on these images and everything and reading them and understanding them. What if we piped it through backwards, and what if we tried to create images from this? And that was the first sort of inkling that the world was about to change. It was weird and creepy and not a substitute for human art at all at the time, but it gave an indication of where artificial intelligence was going and what was going to happen. And this is the kind of thing that we're seeing here, is that this was an unintended consequence of Tesla's work. They didn't intend to be able to do generative art and type in, take a right-hand turn, and it would like generate a scene and make the virtual car turn in a virtual world. But that's the kind of thing that they're getting. They're able to generate this information. What's going to come of this, I don't know. Maybe it'll be super cool video games or something, because you'll be able to generate worlds on the fly. So Tesla could become a gaming company, and they could release a really, really fascinating driving game where you could just drive through any type of environment where, just it keeps generating it as you go. There could be more practical outcomes to this. Well, there will be, because obviously they're doing full self-driving, but there's just so many interesting possibilities that come about from the capability of the vehicle to generate these to understand the world around it, essentially. And again, this goes back to Ashok's original tweet about artificial general intelligence. This is the kind of steps, the foundation work that is really laying things out and showing how much progress we're going to make. And 11.4.4 is out. I have not obviously had a chance to drive it since my car is sitting in the parking lot in the airport, and I don't even know if I have that software update available. But people are saying it's a significant upgrade. There's going to be an 11.420, which is also going to have ASS, which is actual smart summon. So apparently the engineers think that's funny, and so there is going to be an 11.420 that's going to be coming out. So there's a lot of really cool stuff happening in the near future, and I, for one, can't wait to get the videos from CVPR when they release them publicly later in the summer, because I think that there's going to be some really interesting stuff that the Tesla AI team talks about. In the meantime, I am incredibly impressed with what's going on, and I think it's really cool that Tesla AI is putting out some of this information and showing just how how cool their software is. We're going to have a chat GPT moment. I'm calling it FSD GPT. We're going to get a moment where suddenly the public is going to wake up to the fact of how cool what's going on is. I think there's just a limited number of people that are driving full self-driving beta, and so there's a lot of people that just don't understand quite how much progress has been made in full self-driving and towards general artificial intelligence. It's going to happen one of these days. People are going to, I predict a golden spike moment. There's going to be a cross-country trip or something where people don't touch the vehicle the entire drive across the country. And that should garner the attention that it deserves. That should be the kind of moment where it's like, oh, crap. This is the kind of software that can actually drive us anywhere in the country. And it can do that, and then hopefully it will graduate to more complex situations. It'll go to opposite side of the road driving countries. Eventually it will get its PhD over in India and learn how to drive there as well. And the world will be an entirely different place after this is done than it is currently, and that's something to be extremely excited about. All right, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know it's kind of a hot take down here, but such is life. I do what I can. Even on vacation, I'm here to try to help you guys out. So anyway, if you did enjoy the video, fumbles and unprofessional video quality or all of that kind of stuff. Anyway, if you did like it, please do like the video so other people can find it. Of course, consider subscribing for more of this kind of content, and support the channel any way you can. And check out all the links in the description and all that other good stuff. And in the meantime, I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.